Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your host for today's episode. And today on the show, I have Henrik Johansson, co-founder and president of Gemba, as my guest. We're going to be learning about his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices, and challenges that he has faced to give you that inside look to what it's like to build and operate a business. Welcome, Henrik. It's so great to meet you. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. Well, before we dive into all things business, I'd love to share a little bit about you with our audience. So feel free to share a bit about yourself.
Well, I am Swedish. I grew up in Sweden, went to school there, and got my Master of Science, Electrical Engineering, Computer Science. And then I started working for a consulting firm there before, in my mid-20s, I had an opportunity to come to the US and moved to Dallas and ended up meeting a girl and staying and never moved back to Sweden. So after that, I lived in San Francisco for a while, been in Austin now since 2020, no, 2001, and started several companies. My first one was back in the dot-com days in the 98. And this is, depending on how you count, the fourth or the fifth startup I've started.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Well, I love that story. I especially love a good love story too. So that's kind of a fun, just cherry on top of the conversation. And so now you've been in business, and before we dive into everything about your current company, tell me about the name because that really intrigued me right away.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to say Gemba, Gemba, Gemba. But the origin actually comes from it's a Japanese word, Gemba, which literally translates to the place where value is created, or where value is created. And it's a term that's used in lean manufacturing. You may have heard of Kaizen manufacturing. It was a methodology for how to streamline manufacturing that was developed in Japan in the 80s. And Toyota was one of the leading drivers of it. So it fits very well with Gemba, what we stand for and what we're all about. It's connected to manufacturing. It's connected to creating value for customers. So we love the name. With the Japanese word actually doesn't have an H at the end. But to get the URL that we wanted, we had to have an H. So it's Gemba.
Oh, wow. Well, that is really incredible too, especially I really like that translation of like the place where value is created. I think that's a really powerful statement. So
Yeah.
yeah, excited to dive in even deeper into this. So how did you, first of all, what is Gemba? What kind of company is it and what do you do?
Yeah. Great question. So Gemba, we really, our mission in life is to democratize product creation. And we're talking then about consumer product creations, right? Real physical goods, not software products. So anything from soft goods, apparel, clothing, textiles, to hard goods, so kitchen appliances, home and kitchen stuff, sports and outdoors. So we have built a proprietary software platform that has the intelligence of how to make pretty much anything. So you can plug in that you want to make an insulated drink cup or a pair of glasses or a kitchen machine, and our engine will spit out here are all the steps that you have to go through in order to create that product, from original concept to the product design to CAD drawings, a full design pack, and then all the steps in finding a manufacturer, working with that manufacturer to finally get the product on the shelf so you can sell it. So basically A to Z, idea to shelf, product development services. And we do it mostly for smaller customers. Most big companies, they have whole departments that do that, but we have found a way to make it affordable and accessible for small, mid-sized businesses that don't have all that expertise internally.
Oh, wow. That is incredible because it brings me back because I once had an apparel company. So it kind of brings me back. I'm excited to dive into kind of the nitty-gritty of everything as well. So you started this company and kind of like what brought you to be inspired to start a goods, an A to Z shelf for like A to Z idea to shelf product?
Yeah, so my prior company, which was my second startup, was called Boundless, and we had built a platform for people to buy and sell promotional products, branded merchandise, anything you can put a logo on. And so we were working with thousands of customers. We built that company up to over 100 million in revenues. So we had a huge network of sellers and buyers in all over the US. And then a couple of our customers started developing their own custom products. So most of the branded merch, right, you just put a logo on an existing product. But then we had a few customers that want to develop new products from scratch. And that led me to traveling overseas, going to Asia and visiting factories. And that really opened my eyes up to, a bunch of opportunities. It was clear that when you create brand new products from scratch, there are a lot of things that can go wrong. And I observed firsthand how many small businesses, failed in their product journey, and as a result, went under. So there's so many steps in developing a physical product, and if any single one of those steps go wrong, that whole project may go south. And if you're a small business owner, maybe a husband-wife couple or solopreneur, you probably don't have the funding or the perseverance to continue through those kind of obstacles. So I just see that there's countless of great ideas that didn't get executed properly, and as a result, that business went away. And that's a big difference for a family business, for a small business. There's a difference between success and complete failure, right? And that can have a big impact on that person's life, on that family's life. So I fell in love with the idea of democratized product creation, to make it accessible, to make it affordable, so that everyone can take their great ideas and turn them into awesome new products.
Ah, well, that is a really great story, and that has a golden nugget in our conversation for real. It's like it's sometimes hard to find the right sort resources and tools and financial backing, and when you're thinking about, yeah, like you said, like a family-owned husband and wife team or small team, it's what you're building is really beneficial to.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun too, because it's mission critical for these businesses. It's what we help them with can be the difference between failure and success. So we have to always be on our toes. We have to always deliver that value that we've promised through our name, and make sure that as many of these product journeys are successful as possible.
Definitely. Well, I'd like to dive into your team and the kind of structure behind that, because behind every good business, there's a team. And so let's start with you and what's your ownership structure look like? And we'll start with that and we'll dive into the team a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had two co-founders when we started the business, Zach and Steven. And we pretty early on recognized that to build something like this, we needed financing. It's not a type of business that could be bootstrapped. At least that was our opinion. And part of that is that we had to build this platform, and software development costs a lot of money. And then part of it was that we had to develop a network of factories all over the world, China, India, Vietnam, etc. And then also build a network of experts, product designers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers. So it's a big undertaking, and we decided that raising some venture capital was the right way to go. And I've done that in a couple of prior startups, so I was familiar with that process, and I had a network of people in that world that made that relatively straightforward. So we raised a couple of rounds of funding, which then allowed us to grow much faster than if you bootstrapped it. So we actually raised $11 million Series A round of funding in 2021, and that allowed us to grow really fast, and we built up the team, and we're almost 100 people by the end of 2021. So that's a little bit about the sort of rocket ship that we were initially. But then if you remember that, since most of our customers are e-commerce businesses, the e-commerce was just blowing up during the pandemic, right? Nobody went out, nobody was going to stores, so e-commerce grew like crazy, and we were the benefactors, one of many benefactors of that, because suddenly people wanted to create new products and place purchase orders for the products. So that growth was, we grew very fast, and then 2022 suddenly everything changed because people started going back to malls or retail stores, and then also there was this slowdown in the economy, so that people stopped buying as much, and as a result, we went from growing super fast to barely growing at all. And so that was a big adjustment that had to happen after, in 2022, 2023, we had to cut costs. We had to look at every aspect of our business, figuring out what we're doing well, what we're not doing well. And finally here in 2024, 2025, we turned the corner, and now we're starting to grow fast again. But it was a rocky path there in the middle, and I think that's in my experience, most businesses go through a rocky path at least once. So in the end, you don't fail until you give up, and I think that's one of the things you learn as a several-time entrepreneur, that every business go through struggles, and you just have to find a way to get through them.
Very true, very true. So I kind of want to back up just a little bit. So you have two co-founders,
Mhm.
and then what year did you start the company? You might have said it, but I want to catch up.
We started in 2018, but we didn't really do any business until 2019.
Okay.
Me and one of my co-founders, Steven, I was still at my prior company, Boundless, when we started the business. And then I came on board full time in 2020.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. And you said you have around 100 employees
We
currently?
had 100 by the end of 2022, and then we had to cut costs significantly. So we were down. We let go over half of our people, but now we rebounded again, and we're around 50 people today. And
Okay.
that's globally. So we're about 20 or so in the US. We got about 15 in China. We got almost 10 in India, and then a couple of folks in Vietnam and Mexico.
Wow. That's incredible too. And looking at something that you're faced with now as a challenge, I know you talked about going through those rocky times. Is there something now in business that you're facing that you're working through?
Yeah, there's always something, right? The tariffs obviously had a big impact on our customers. A lot of our customers source products or make things in China, and when the current administration, launched 140% tariffs, and it was changing every day. That was incredibly hard for our customers, right? Tariffs is one thing, but then the uncertainty of ever-changing tariffs is another thing. So, it's hard to operate any business if you don't know what your cost basis is, and it's changing often. So that was very challenging for a lot of our customers. Actually, for Gemba, it was, after the initial panic in April, I think it's actually been a boost for us, because the more people that need help, a lot of folks were trying to move manufacturing from China to India or to Vietnam or some other place. The tariffs were expected to be lower. They needed our help to do that. It's one thing to buy things from China, because China's used to dealing with American companies, and they speak English. They have nice websites in English. They have product catalogs. But if you go to other parts of the world, that's not necessarily true. So I think that people are in more need of services like Gemba's when they had to go outside of China.
Yeah, that makes sense too. I was going to ask you about the tariffs, that was affecting you, and especially as a goods business. And so, what are some of the things you're doing currently? I know, are you like to mitigate some of those uncertainties?
Yeah, fortunately, we had built a team. We didn't put all our eggs in the China basket. We early on invested in India, in Vietnam, and in Mexico to make sure that we had factory networks in those countries too. So, while what happened in April was unprecedented and surprising, I think, to everybody. It was already a trend that costs in China have been increasing over the last decade. So China is no longer the low cost labor capital, right? It's much cheaper to make things in other countries. So there already had been a movement. A lot of the big U.S. companies like Walmart or Nike or wherever, they have moved a lot of their production out of China. Not all of it, but when it comes to footwear or apparel, like you were in the apparel business, a lot of those things are made in other places than China.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So we were well prepared, I'd say, when it happened.
That's good. That's really good. Looking at now moving forward, where do you see your company going from, say, the next 3 to 5 years?
Yes, as I mentioned, we started growing rapidly again. I think we figured out what we're really good at, where we can add a lot of value, what type of projects we should be working on. So right now we are growing rapidly again. We hired 10 new salespeople just over the last 6 months. So we have a lot of demand. We've become really good at marketing ourselves online. So if you're out looking for almost making any kind of product, odds are you're going to find your way to Gemba somehow. And then we have changed quite a lot of personnel over the years. We have some really great managers inside the organization now. We have great leadership in all our countries. So we feel that we're ready for sustained growth for the next several years. And there's plenty of headroom. We look at something called impression share, right? So if you bid on keywords on Google, for example, you can see how many of the people that type in that keyword see your ad. Mm-hmm. And we're still pretty low. We maybe 10% or so. So we know we can grow 10x in just using the same growth strategies as we're using today. And then we know there's a lot of other ways for us to grow. So I hope one day we go public and we have an IPO and get to ring the bell on the stock exchange. But that's of course that's the stretch goal. If that doesn't happen, I'm sure we'll have we'll have some potentially us acquiring other businesses in the next couple of years, or us eventually getting acquired. The fact is we have outside investors. Odds are there's going to be some kind of an exit in the next several years because they want to see a return on their investment.
Oh, well, those sound like incredible goals, especially when it comes to like you're in a growth mode right now. Is there anything that is really sticking out as a challenge within growth in itself? I think that's a big question that a lot of our listeners are facing right now too, is like, oh, how do you grow without, how do you grow
breaking
gracefully? Yes. Yes.
Yeah. It's always challenging. And I'd say there's challenges at every sort of next growth spurt. Fortunately, I think we're in a good position because those 2 hard years that we went through, we really had to look at how we streamline operations, how we only work in areas that we're really good at, how we pick the partners that are involved, how we create a truly scalable business that doesn't require a ton of manual effort involved. There's certain pieces that require manual effort, like if you're going to go into the factory and do a quality test on a product, that certainly needs to be a human being doing that. But there's a lot of things, about how do we find the right experts? How do we match them up with customers? How do we find the right factories? How do we get bids from them? We've automated a lot of those things out of necessity as we were going through hard times, and I think that has put us in a great position now to scale without adding a ton of people.
Definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that. This has been such an inspiring conversation. Before we get to our final question of the day, I'd like to get into some fun rapid fire questions.
All right.
So the key is answer very top of mind, and there's 4 questions.
That's scary. Let's do it.
All right. Question number 1 is, what is a key to success for you?
Perseverance. I think that's the first word that come to mind. I think never giving up. Every startup I've been in, I have been part of 4 now, and every single one, there's a time where you don't know if you're going to succeed or not, if you're going to survive. So perseverance.
That's a good one. That's true. Number 2 is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Ooh, I'd say be customer focused. I think it's easy to sit in your office or sit in your store and pontificate and wonder what you're going to create the customer's going to like, and the customer usually has the answer. So I think whenever you don't know what to do, go ask the customer.
Truth. Number 3 is, it could be a book, a podcast, an article, just something that you've read most recently.
It's actually like clockwork. It's a book. My good friend Sam Goodner, is another CEO in Austin, Texas. He's got a really interesting background. He was a special forces in Switzerland where he grew up, so he has that
Oh,
background. And Switzerland is famous for their clocks. And he talks about clockwork, and he talks about how you really building a successful business that lives beyond its founders is like clock building more than time telling. I can elaborate on that if we have time, but yeah, he's written a really good book about atomic habits of success is often driven by the habits that you have, and you run your life and your business like clockwork. It has a greater chance of success.
I just wrote that one down. I'm going to add that to my read list because that sounds like something I need. Oh, and
Yeah, sounds great.
our fourth and final question is, if you could wave a magic wand and rapidly improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
I think it would be the scale. I think we're, to reach as many people as we can, because I know there's a lot of them out there. A lot of people have great ideas, and most of them don't ever try. And most of the people that try fail, unfortunately. So, and I think that particularly in this time of AI taking a lot of jobs, and I don't think that's going to get any better. I encourage everyone to figure out how to start your own business, because I think that job will always be around, the ability to be an entrepreneur and take control of your own life. And again, but we hope we can help as many people as possible to do that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That almost answered the last question I'll be asking you, because that was very inspiring. Before we get into our final question, how can folks get connected with you and Gemba online?
Yes, our URL is gembah.com. That's GEMBAH, gembah.com. You can find me. I'm Henrik Johansson on LinkedIn. I'm the only Henrik Johansson in Austin. There's a lot of Henrik Johanssons in Sweden, but I'm the only one here. Or you can email me at henrik@gembah.com. That's HENRIK@gembah.com.
Thank you, Henrik. This has been a great conversation. For our final question today, what is most inspiring to you today?
Yeah, it's got to be the creative spirit of human beings. And we see it every day. We're fortunate that we get to sit in this place where a lot of people bring their ideas, and we can try to help them. But I see it in other places too, and I find it incredibly inspiring. And also in this world of AI, I think that where we can make a difference is where we're truly human. There's nobody like UK in the whole world, and no computer can emulate you. And I think we have to. We don't have to, but I think now is a good time to recognize and see what really makes us human, what makes us different, and what do we, as an individual, have to contribute to the world and bring it.
Very, very inspiring words. This has been such a great conversation, Henrik. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today.
Thanks, Kay. It was a lot of fun.